Ladies and gentlemen, I am finally doing it. I am giving you the sauce that has been responsible for me collecting over $8 million in the high ticket sales space. I am giving it to you here in a very short video that's basically going to touch upon everything necessary for you to become an A-player closer. A-player closers get paid very, very well in this space. I'm talking 15K plus a month. Okay. So if that is something that you aspire to be, or maybe you're just considering if this is a career path that you'd be interested in, then this video has a lot of value for you. If somebody gets on a call and immediately is just like turned off by whatever your appearance looks like, or is just turned off by like the language that you're using or the lack of professionalism that you provide, they're not going to buy from you. If they don't like you, they're not giving you money. That's the rule that I always stand by. Now, high ticket sales is a very interesting thing. Like, you need to understand, why would somebody spend $2, $5, $10, $25, $50,000? Why would somebody spend that kind of money on business opportunities and so many other things that are being sold high ticket? I'll give you a brief list down below as far as like the different types of offers that do exist and what might fit for you. So point being is understanding the psychology of high ticket sales. I want to just give it to you brief. If I'm teaching a business opportunity, right, where I can teach somebody, like my first offer that I ever worked with was basically e-commerce. So it was basically, hey, you pay us $5,000 and we're going to teach you how to make an additional $3,000 a month. Now, at first you're like, well, how does that make sense? Well, think about this. You're paying us $5K up front, but if you start making $3,000 a month every single month for the next year, and you never even scale past that, well, you've added an additional $36,000 to your bank account. Take out the $5K that you invested with us, you're up $30K. If I'm not mistaken, a 6X on your investment. So that being said, it's a pretty sound investment. Okay. And that's what people are learning. What they're trying to do is say, hey, look, e-commerce seems like a good opportunity for me, and I'd love to learn it. But if I try to learn it on my own, I may struggle and I may make mistakes. And to avoid those mistakes, I want to pay somebody to be able to help me achieve those goals and results that I've set out to achieve, but as fast as possible. People that typically do as clients end up moving forward in a high ticket sales proposition, it's because they value their time. For example, if I wanted to learn e-commerce, I would need to learn about marketing, advertising. I would need to learn about distribution. I would need to learn about manufacturing. I would need to learn about customer service. I would need to learn about payment processing. I would need to learn about branding. There are so many things that I would need to learn about. The odds of me being a master e-com head are very, very minimal. Okay. The odds are stacked against you. But if I see somebody that I see is clearly successful doing e-commerce and they are offering to teach me how to do it, well, I'd probably be more successful working with them than if I tried to wing it on my own. A logical individual is going to think about that and say, you know what, maybe I should just go ahead and pay the high ticket fee to be able to expedite my process, but most importantly, ensure that I actually do end up being successful, right? Because the thing is, let's say it takes someone a year to figure out e-com. That's granted that they actually stick with it for the full year. How many times have you personally tried something and given up after a few tries, right? But you as a closer need to make them aware of that, because their natural instinct when they get on is like, yeah, I want to learn e-commerce. Okay, well, we can teach it to you, and this is how much we charge to be able to teach you. Oh, well, that's expensive. Yeah, it's expensive because we're teaching you something really valuable, and it's going to take some time and some effort to be able to implement it and make it happen. Yeah, but I got to think about it. Okay, well, if you're going to go ahead and think about it, what exactly are you thinking about? Are you thinking about being successful, or are you thinking about putting the work in? Or are you thinking about if you're even capable of doing any of this? These are the types of questions that you have to be aware of, that you have to be able to ask when that time comes, when it comes to objection handling. But the premise here is that with high ticket sales, you are essentially trying to sell somebody on saving their time and effort. Okay. So essentially what you're doing is saying, hey, look, you have a very low probability, and you know it, of being successful with X business on your own. You pay us, and we're going to provide you tools, resources, guidance, and experience to give you the highest probability of actually being successful with. So when you're selling that, if you're able to properly communicate it, you can sell anything. Okay. This is true for everything. As long as you're able to show them that by working with us, you give yourself an opportunity to be successful, versus by staying on the sidelines and not working with us, you are most likely going to fail then they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, logically, I do want to be successful with this because of X stated pain, because of X stated urgency, and because of X stated potential reward. So therefore, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with you and do business with you. That is what you are doing in high ticket sales. You are communicating that their time is the most valuable thing and that their money is going to buy them back more time. First things first, when it comes to high ticket sales, before you even talk about what it's like to be on a call, you need to understand any A team is going to require you to do work pre-call, okay? There are things that need to be done before you ever get on a call with a student or a client, I should say. Now, the reason being is the difference between a closer who has a 60% show up rate and a 20% show up rate is a significant difference at the end of the month as far as how much money they're actually making, not only themselves, but the company, okay? And that's the important thing when you go into sales. You have to remember, as much as you're worried about yourself and making money, getting your commission and whatnot, there's a lot of work that goes in to actually getting those inbound calls on your calendar, all right? So if you want to actually be able to, be a high ticket closer that's making tons of money, you got to be able to do the little things. Like, I'm not hiring somebody that is taking more than 10 minutes to be able to call somebody that books in on their calendar. If you don't want to talk to the person that's going to be, on your calendar tomorrow, if you don't want to talk to them for 30 seconds today to make sure that they're aware of the details of the meeting and they're actually going to be present for the meeting, then you and I just don't align, okay? Like, that means that you don't really care if tomorrow your time is wasted or not. Whereas your time is technically company time, because I could be putting another qualified client on your calendar at that time if you properly manage your calendar, okay? So these types of things are very, very important for you to understand. As a business owner, what I look for is people that are just obsessed. You got to be obsessed with this. That's the only way that you're actually going to be successful with it. I've never met a closer that does over 20K in commissions that is not absolutely dialed on their pre-call, live on call, and even post-call when it comes to follow-up and making sure that their pipeline is nurtured properly. These are the things I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to be able to do to become that A player. So, for example, if I get a call booked onto my calendar for tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and the notification comes in, I'm going to immediately dial that individual. The reason that I'm going to do it immediately is because if they just booked the call, that means that their interest is peaked right now. They just went through the funnel. They just decided, you know what, I'm going to actually show up to this call. I'm going to go ahead and book a call. And at that very moment, the iron is hot. You want to strike while the iron is hot. You want to call them and get on the phone with them and then not berate them and be like, make sure you're there and like this and that. No. What you want to do is you want to call them and show them you're a cool guy. Like, show them like, you're someone worthy of hopping on a call with, right? They just watch the offer owner do their marketing spiel. And then they decide, you know what? I like this guy. Let me go ahead and book a call with him. And then they find out, oh, it's not even with him. It's with some team member of his. Who the hell am I going to be talking to tomorrow? They have no idea who they're genuinely going to be talking to. And so what we do by calling them immediately and being like, hey, Candace, see, we got this call tomorrow. I just wanted to see, do you have like 30 seconds to just like confirm details about it and whatnot? I don't want to waste any of your time. Yeah, you're good for that? Okay, cool. Yeah, really quick, our call is tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's gonna be a Google Meeting call, so if you can take it from a laptop or a computer, that'd be ideal. But regardless, just be present for that call. I'm gonna be sharing and presenting you an offer that we've worked really, really hard to put together. So once you actually go ahead, make sure that you're able to be there, I'm also gonna go ahead and send you a YouTube video. Now, this YouTube video is gonna be about 9 to 10 minutes long. It's not gonna be lengthy at all, but our students typically find a lot of value from being able to go something like this because it gives them a lot of clarity as far as what to expect, not only in our call, but with the business itself, right? Which is what the important thing is. So please, if everything aligns, just check that out. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. That's a very low pressure thing. You're not telling them you must watch this call before you get on call with me. You're not telling them that they must be at a laptop or a computer for the meeting. You're basically saying, hey, I'm so grateful that you set aside time for us. This is what I can do to best prepare you for our meeting so we can have the most productive conversation. When you bring that attitude, I want you to imagine yourself in the client's shoes. If you booked a call with a company and you want to learn how to make more money with them, and then as soon as you book the call, you get an inbound phone call from a rep of that company, and they're saying, hey, yeah, I just want to confirm these details. I just want to make sure everything is cool. Let me know if there's anything that you need. Oh, do you need to reschedule for a better time? Like, if somebody is like genuinely giving you a white glove customer service experience, you're more likely to show up to that call tomorrow. That's what you're trying to ensure, that they actually show up and you're able to have a productive conversation there. So the work starts well before you actually sit down and have that first conversation face to face on the Google Meeting. Okay. So recap very, very briefly, your responsibility when doing your confirmation call is to make the person like you off the bat. Because if the first time that you have any type of, let's say, interaction with the prospect is when you get live on call, you're actually going to deal with funny objections. You're going to be like, well, I just met you. I just had this first conversation with you for the first time. I need time to think about it. It's like, it's a $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 offer. I don't know if I can do this yet. I just met you. But how you can counteract that is be like, man, we spoke yesterday. We did speak yesterday, and now we're having another conversation. We've had 2 conversations where it's like, this really seems like it aligns. What in the world are we waiting for, right? And that comes to objection handling and whatnot, but this allows you to have some ammunition as well, because you also sent them that YouTube video, and they most probably, after they decided that they like you, watched that YouTube video before the call as well. And because they're doing that, and they're watching that video, they're getting nurtured, they're getting sold on what you're doing. Then they show up to the call, then they go through your no-brainer offer and listen to you, like, be passionate about the conversation that you're having with them, and they can tell that you care about them and you've done so much to serve them to this point. I can't imagine what they're going to do once I actually pay them, And you're creating all this good energy and positive momentum to make them want to be a buyer. Because if you're able to close them live on that call, boom, you get paid. Versus, oh, I got to think about it. I didn't even get a chance to watch that video. I didn't even know about this video. This is the first time I'm talking to you, so I got to take some time to figure it out. Well, guess what? Now you don't get paid on that. You got to keep giving your mental attention to that prospect. As a good closer, you need to be following up with them, checking your pipeline with them, making sure that you're sending them relevant information. We'll talk more about that shortly. But you got to do all these things so that way you actually have a fighting shot at closing them and not wasting your time further down the road or losing them, right? No one wants to get ghosted. That's worst case. So that is why the pre-call process is so important. And if you can do that, you're going to make a lot of money in this space. Your introduction is going to be your moneymaker. It's how you introduce yourself, and it's your also first impression on the prospect that you're about to be on a call with for the next hour. I'll give you an example as what mine is. So I basically hop on the call and I'll start like this. Hey, I'm Shivam. Pleasure to meet you. I understand when you book a meeting here with us, you've probably got a lot of questions, like not only about who we are and whatnot, but specifically about the business that we're introducing you to. So understanding that, I'm going to give you so much value. I'm going to give you a lot of input and insight on a timeline, game plan, and playbook for how it will work with you. However, I do need to get a bit of an idea in order to do that to the best of my ability about where you're currently at, what you've got going on right now, what your goals look like, just to make sure that we can actually serve you. Okay, so all that being said, a good place to start is what actually encouraged you to book a meeting here today. That right there, I can do that in my sleep. Like that right there gives you a ton of leverage. Okay, first off, you're telling them that you're going to give them a lot of value. So you're hanging this apple at the end of the road. You're hanging this apple, but at the same time, you're telling them, I need some insight and I need to get an understanding of your current situation and your desired situation. So I'm going to ask you some questions, basically is what I'm saying. And the reason that I'm doing that is so I can curate what we're going to talk about to your specific situation. So I can give you a timeline, I can give you a game plan, and I can give you a playbook. Okay. So you're basically saying, hey, I've got a lot of value for you, but at first I need you to give me something as well. And you're going to use that something as ammunition. Now, let's talk about where the money is genuinely made. This is when you actually get on a call. This is very important for you to understand as well. The human mind makes so many assumptions when they first see you. Like, it's not even something where you say a word and then they're like, oh, okay, I like this person or don't like this person. When you get on a Google Meeting call, okay, and the camera opens up and this person introduces themselves to you and you introduce yourself to them, and that's the important part that I'm about to explain to you, is that you must have your introduction mastered, okay? But a lot of it has to do with the personal identity that you bring to the call. The human mind makes 1,000 snapshot judgments based on what you look like, based on what you're wearing, based on, like, funny enough, like your skin color, based on your hair, the way it's, set and whatnot. Do you take care of yourself? Like, are you, well groomed, things like that. The human mind is making so many assumptions without even knowing it. It's all subconscious. Okay. So when we present ourselves on call, we want to give ourselves the best possible shot to be able to convert this client. Okay. And what that means is that we present ourselves, clean cut. We wear something that looks professional to some capacity. It doesn't need to be like a button up and a tie and all that. It just needs to be something where, you clearly make money and respect your time, right? You're here, you've set yourself apart, you've made sure that you're ready for this call, right? So now that's your introduction. As you go into it, the personal identity that you have is one of the most important things that you're ever going to master. Because the fact of the matter is, it's going to help you in business. It's going to help you with dating. It's going to help you with relationships. It's who you are. It's understanding who you are. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to be somebody that's making $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month as a high ticket closer, or maybe your ambitions eventually are to take your closing skills and start your own business one day like I did, right? You're gonna have to sell yourself on you. Okay, before I had money to my name, before I like really mastered, the skill set of closing and got myself to a point where like I know I'll never be needing for money again, like I'll always be able to provide for myself and my loved ones. Before I was able to get there, I had to believe that I could actually achieve it. Okay, so I literally, it's looking in the mirror, looking yourself in the mirror, saying, you know what, I'm the person that I want to be, right? It's being an admirable individual, and that's gonna come into play because you're also gonna have to be admirable to the people that you're closing. You need to remember this. You have one opportunity to actually make a first impression, and that's always going to be true. Okay, so when you get on a sales call, you need to be able to present yourself as somebody that is already making money, okay? I understand when you first get into sales, you might not be making that much money, but when you get on a call with a prospect, that shouldn't matter. You should have that confidence in yourself that I make money. I am worth listening to, because at the end of the day, you're advising and leading the prospects in business. So they need to look at you as an authority, okay? And what that means is understanding that the language that you use on the call is going to be very, very important. The imagery, the way you present yourself is going to be very, very important, because your client is making snapshot decisions as far as, do I trust this guy? Do I trust this girl or not? Okay. And if you're able to at least convey that you know what you're talking about and you're clearly worth listening to, then everything else will work itself out. Very brief side note, when it comes to transactional sales versus transformational sales, just to give you a really, really brief overview, transactional is like if I'm working with an agency or a business owner and I'm saying, hey, if you do X service for me, then I'll be able to increase my profits by 15% this month. So transactionally, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go ahead and move forward. Versus transformational. Transformational is better for B2C, and really the only way you can do it, because what you're doing is you're taking them from a current situation to a desired situation. And then what you're showing them is just how far their desired situation truly is from being achieved compared to where they're at currently. Okay, so that is what transformational sales is. I'm sure that you probably heard the term objection handling. And just to make sure that you understand something, objection handling only happens if the objection wasn't prevented. So objection prevention is actually the more valuable thing to learn. Objection handling is more like you're trying to fix a situation that's already been botched. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a separate video because it's just so extensive on how to do objection handling and whatnot. What I want to talk to you about right now is strictly objection prevention. Now, there's a few mechanisms that we use to prevent objections. One such case would be, okay, so when the client is going through and filling out the application to work with you, what you're gonna ask them is, hey, are you going to be attending this call on your own, or will you be bringing a decision maker with you or a partner with you? And it allows them to say, yes, I'll be attending it on my own. No, I'll be bringing my partner with me. Or no, I have a partner that will help me with the decision-making process, but I will not be bringing them to the call. This gives you a little bit of insight before you even get on the call as a closer. Okay, so that is something to prevent that objection from happening, so that way you can at least be prepared for it. Okay, another objection prevention is to basically just get an idea of where is the prospect at in their life. I'll give you an example. Sometimes you will meet somebody on a call that is in the middle of closing on a home. So that typically ties up their credit. That typically ties up their cash. They can't do any major transactions or anything. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna get on that call very early on and you're gonna be like, oh my God, this person, like they're not giving me many objections and whatnot, because in the back of their mind, they know they can't move forward today. And so you're like, oh, they're not giving me any objections. Like everything sounds good. You get to the end, you're like, okay, you ready to move forward? And like, yeah, no, I'd love to, but like, I gotta wait. My closing isn't for another like month or 2 months, or I'm in the middle of escrow and I'm trying to figure this out. So you've now put yourself in a tough spot where like you've made this offer, you've given the price, you've lost all leverage, and you're not able to logistically, you are not able to close. So the way that you would prevent that from happening is very early on, before you dive into the actual pitch of your business or your program. What you're going to ask is, once everything aligns, say, hey, look, I just always like to ask this question so that way nothing like catches me off guard. Let's say everything did align today and like this checks all your boxes. I provide you a timeline, a game plan, and a playbook on exactly how to start, operate, and scale this business. And for you, it's a no-brainer. You're like, yes, I want to move forward with you guys. I want to work with you. Let's say all that happens. Is there anything coming up? Like, do you have a vacation coming up? Do you have a big anniversary that you're spending money on? The closing process for a home or anything like that? Is anything like that coming up where you logistically would not be able to get started with us? And the thing is, when you're just like straightforward and honest about something like this with a B2C prospect, they'll actually appreciate you like bringing something up like that, you know? And the fact of the matter is, when you get to the end of the call, if they bring up some type of BS about not being able to get started right now, like, oh, I don't have a debit card or I don't have like a credit card or something, you can cut the BS and you can be like, listen, man, like earlier, I did kind of try to clarify, like, if you're in a good spot to be able to do this, if everything aligns. So my question to you is, does everything align? Yes, everything aligns. Okay, so we can figure out a credit card or debit card situation. But what I'm asking for is this your next step? You're getting them to commit regardless of whatever BS they're giving you. Is this your next step? Yes, it's my next step. Okay, now, do we need to do a deposit or something? Well, I don't have a debit card or credit card. Okay, man, it is like, it's 2025. It's almost the end of 2025. I'm sure you have like PayPal. I'm sure you have Zelle. Just something to show me some type of commitment that it's worth us booking another call to collect the rest of the payment. I just need to know that like you're genuinely serious. Now, if somebody is genuinely sold on what you're doing, they don't want to come off as like a BSer. They want to be able to give you their money and show you that they're serious. But if they're still not willing to commit something, then the true objection hasn't been given. They're still a little bit uncertain about moving forward. And now you're able to actually deal with that. When you're a closer, what you're going to find is the dream is to be able to hop on a call and live call close them, like close them on the first interactions you've ever had with them. And I mean, as great as that sounds, that's just not the most common thing that ends up happening. The fact of the matter is, when you make that first touch and you have a good call with somebody and you give them a very, very great presentation, you may have a client, but they may not be ready to move forward today. Now, there are a ton of things that can come up as far as why they cannot move forward right now, but getting clarity on your end as to if this person is going to end up paying you money eventually and paying your bills eventually or not is very important, because it allows you to have a little bit of flexibility and calm on the call. Okay, if you're always stressed about closing live on call, and if your sales manager is like, if you don't close on the first call, like, you know, you suck or something like that, that's not the way to go about high ticket sales. Okay, so much of the money that I've collected comes from a pipeline. It comes from me impressing a prospect to the point where they can't tell me no, but let me get my bearings situated. I get paid again at the end of the week, and then I'll have the money to move forward. Now, that could be cope, or that could be them genuinely saying like, listen, man, give me a few days. Now, if you press them too hard, they may get turned off. If you don't press them enough, they may be BSing you and just trying to get off the call. So it's important for you to ask certain questions, okay? And this is one of the questions that I always like to ask. Once I've given the price and I've given the prospect all the possible information and value that I can possibly give them, and I've made them an offer and they've, you know, implied that they are interested in moving forward, but for some reason something is coming up where they cannot get started, I always ask this one question. You know, whether it's a partner thing, whether it's a logistics thing, whatever it may be, I say, look, man, I want you to think about something. Money aside, 1 to 10, 1 being, I can't believe I just wasted an hour of my time with this guy. 10 being, sign me up right now. Here's my credit card. Let's roll. You don't need to be at a 1. You don't need to be at a 10. Temp check. Where are you right? Oh, I'm at a 7 or 8. That's typically what a buyer will say, right? They'll say, oh, I'm at a 7 or 8. You know, I kind of just got to see it happen. And, you know, I'd like to do it. I'm pretty sure it'll work. Okay, cool. Part of it is, and this is what I would say as a closer. No, I totally get it. At a 7 or 8, I mean, that's typically what our students say, right? Before they get started. It's like, I'm pretty certain this will work. I need to see some like actual proof on my own once I make some sales. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm pretty much ready to go. Would you say that's where you're at? Yes, that's where I'm at. Part of it is I'm very assumptive. I like to frame what they're thinking. I don't lie to myself either and tell myself that this person that I just had a terrible call with is going to buy. It's after I've had a really good conversation with them that I go ahead and start making assumptive language. And I make use of it by basically saying like, this is where you're at with it, right? This is where you're at with it, right? Okay, cool. So this is where we're going with it, right? You're leading them to where you want to go. And essentially what you're trying to do is basically isolate if it's going to be a financial issue or a commitment issue. If they're committed and they just need to handle their finances, cool, let's do a deposit, let's move forward. Or if they're committed, but they're like, my wife and I, we have to be on the same page about expenses, cool, we can handle it. You know, there's a mechanism to deal with that. But understanding if your person is sold or not, it comes down to first off, you got to go with your gut. Your gut is going to tell you if you sold the person or not. You have to do a good job of presenting the offer, making sure that you identify urgency, making sure that you identify pain. You have to do a good job of doing that. Okay. Now, if you've done all that throughout the entire hour-long call and you get to the end and you're just dealing with a few things, then you know you've sold the person. But if you feel like you're dealing with a bunch of smoke screens where they just keep throwing random things at you, then they're most likely not going to close. And that's where you can go ahead and say, hey, you know what, man? Like, I know that you're saying that you want to book another call a couple days from now, but logically speaking, I just don't see why we can't get started at this time. You know, you're not really giving me anything here as far as like why you genuinely cannot get started. So what you're doing is you're really getting clarity on your own as far as where the prospect is at, and you're kind of pulling away a little bit. At this point, the prospect will be like, yeah, I mean, I'm just really not sold. Okay, got it. Or they may say, no, man, I really am like serious. Like, I want to get started, but X, Y, or Z is coming up where I really can't. Okay, cool. Then we can handle it as such. My sales team has very high hygiene standards. Okay. And what that means is when they take a call, right, and they get a call put on their calendar, they have a few things that is just, you know, non-negotiable. They must do. Number one is as soon as that call comes in, they must call that lead and confirm the details of the meeting. Non-negotiable. Send them the pre-call resources and materials. Non-negotiable. Number two, non-negotiable. Sticking to the framework and making sure that every single call that they have is relatively synchronized, right? Like they're going through the motions of the call so that way they can control anything that goes out of control, right? If 8 parts of the call are all the same every single call, and then one day there's one part that is being done differently, then we can identify the one part that was done different. Especially with AI analyzing all these calls these days, it's very easy to identify when there's a proper framework. Okay, so that's how we are able to make sure that our closers are doing what they're supposed to live on call. Then also following up. If they get a partner objection, they must send a loom. If they get a financial objection in the moment, they must offer some type of financing. If they get off the call and they deal with just like uncertainty or skepticism, you best believe every couple days we are sending client testimonies, we are sending results, we are showing, you know, like new features of the program. We are dialing, and we are dialing until that invoice is paid or we get blocked. That is the attitude and approach that we must have with every single lead. To give you an idea as well, as far as like what the metrics look like, understand this. My team, we get calls booked at about $150 cost per call booked. Now, not everyone shows up and whatnot. So what we expect for a closer is for a closer to be able to get at least on calls booked about $400 cash in. Now, these numbers may or may not make sense for you, but the point being is just because you have a call and the person doesn't close, it doesn't matter. That prospect was still paid for. You paid to get that person on. It doesn't mean that you stop talking to them. If anything, that person, and you've got to understand this, that person that you had the hour-long conversation with that already went through the entire pre-call process and already went through the funnel as well and was attracted to even have the conversation in the first place, who do you think is more likely to actually pay you money? That person that you've already had the great impression with on that first call, or some random stranger off the street? You've paid money for that lead. As a business owner, you must value the leads. So that pipeline and that hygiene is held to a very high standard that you are following up relentlessly. Now, when a call gets booked onto the calendar, it's crazy. There's so many things that go into this. When the call gets booked onto the calendar, if the person does not answer the phone when you call them to confirm them, guess what we're doing? We're not just giving up. We then take a selfie video, introduce ourselves, call the client out by name and say, hey, here are the details of our meeting. Can't wait to have this conversation with you. Just wanted you to be able to put a face to the name. Look forward to talking to you. Now, guess what? They're more likely to actually show up to the call because they see it's a human texting them instead of a bunch of automated text messages, right? So these are the types of things that, again, push the needle as far as getting profitable as a closer. Now, if you've watched this and you feel like this is something that you can do, you can handle a pre-call process, you can handle the pressure of being live on call, you can handle the pressure of, you know, being expected to follow up with clients and whatnot, and understand that this is a high performance environment. If you feel like this is something that you could potentially do, I invite you to scroll down a little bit. There's going to be an application. Go ahead, apply to work with me. I work with many different types of offers. I've got clients that do trading. I've got clients that do e-commerce. I've got clients that do real estate. If this is something that you feel like you can do, apply. Let's see if we can work together and let's make some money.